Elliot's heart stopped when he saw the photo on his phone. His mother's arm draped around a man whose face he knew too well. Dr. Nathan Harper, his therapist, smiled back at him from the screen, oblivious to the betrayal that burned in Elliot's chest. He dropped the phone onto the cafe table, the clatter drowned out by the hum of New York City outside. It was a crisp October evening in Brooklyn, and Elliot, 28, sat in his favorite corner booth at the Grind, a cozy cafe where he'd spent countless hours sketching and escaping the chaos of his life. His dark hair fell into his green eyes as he stared at the photo his cousin had texted him. Captioned, "Aunt Linda's new guy. Met him at her place last night." The words felt like a punch. Dr. Nathan, 42, the man who'd spent the last 6 months helping Elliot untangle the knots of his toxic relationship with his mother, was now her boyfriend. The betrayal cut deeper than any wound Linda had ever inflicted. Elliot's mother, Linda, had always been a storm. Growing up in their cramped Queens apartment, he'd endured her manipulative rants, her insistence that his bisexuality was a phase, a sin, a choice he could fix. She'd scream that he was broken, then cry and beg for his forgiveness, only to repeat the cycle. At 25, he'd finally cut her off, moving across the city and starting therapy to rebuild himself. Dr. Nathan had been his anchor, a steady presence with warm brown eyes and a voice that made Elliot feel seen. Their sessions were a lifeline. But lately, something more had stirred a spark in the way Nathan's hand lingered when passing a tissue, or how his smile softened when Elliot spoke about his dreams. Now, that trust was shattered. Elliot's hands trembled as he typed a message to Nathan. "We need to talk. Now." He hit send, his stomach churning. The cafe's warm glow felt suffocating, the scent of coffee and cinnamon turning bitter. He'd trusted Nathan with his deepest wounds, his mother's rejection, his fear of never being enough. How could Nathan, knowing all that, step into Linda's life? The bell above the cafe door jingled, and Nathan walked in. He looked exactly as he always did, polished blazer, salt and pepper hair, and a calm that usually soothed Elliot but now felt like a mask. He slid into the booth, his expression cautious. "Elliot, what's wrong?" "Your message sounded urgent." Elliot slid the phone across the table, the photo glaring up at them. Nathan's face paled, his eyes widening as he registered the image. "Elliot, how could you?" Elliot's voice cracked, low but sharp. "You knew what she did to me. You knew. And you're dating her." Nathan leaned forward, his hands clasped tightly. "It's not what you think. I didn't know she was your mother when we met. I swear." His voice was steady but laced with guilt. "We met at a charity event 3 weeks ago. She introduced herself as Linda Carter, not Linda Hayes. I only realized the connection yesterday." Elliot's jaw tightened. "And you didn't think to tell me. You're my therapist." The word felt heavy, a reminder of the boundary that should have protected him. Yet, even now, he couldn't ignore the pull he felt toward Nathan, the way his heart raced at the sight of him, despite the anger. "I was going to tell you," Nathan said, his voice softer. "I ended things with her last night. As soon as I realized, I couldn't continue. Not after knowing her history with you." He hesitated, his eyes searching Elliot's. "I care about you, Elliot, more than I should." The confession hung in the air, raw and dangerous. Elliot's breath caught, torn between fury and the warmth spreading in his chest. He wanted to believe Nathan, but trust was a fragile thing, and his mother had already broken so much of it. "You expect me to just accept that?" he asked, his voice trembling. "You're supposed to be the one person I can rely on." Nathan reached out, then stopped, his hand hovering over the table. I know I've hurt you. And I hate that. Let me make this right. Please. Elliot looked away, the city lights blurring through the window. He wanted to run, to shut Nathan out like he had his mother. But something in Nathan's voice, the sincerity in his eyes, held him there. This was only the beginning of a storm he couldn't escape. Elliot's sketchbook lay open on the cafe table, its pages filled with half-finished drawings of cityscapes and faces, Nathan's among them, sketched in secret after late-night sessions. He snapped it shut, avoiding Nathan's gaze. The admission of care, of something beyond professionalism, had cracked open a door Elliot wasn't ready to walk through. I need time, Elliot said finally, his voice barely above a whisper. I can't do this right now. He grabbed his jacket and stood, the chair scraping against the hardwood floor. Nathan didn't try to stop him, but his eyes followed Elliot with a quiet intensity that made leaving harder. Outside, the Brooklyn streets were alive with honking taxis and chattering pedestrians. Elliot pulled his jacket tighter, the autumn chill biting at his skin. His phone buzzed, another text from his cousin. Aunt Linda's freaking out. Said her boyfriend dumped her. What's going on? Elliot ignored it, his thoughts a tangle of Nathan's words and his mother's shadow. He needed space to think. But Linda had a way of invading every corner of his life. Even now, he walked aimlessly, ending up at Prospect Park, where the trees glowed red and gold under the streetlights. Sitting on a bench, he replayed the past 6 months. Therapy had been his refuge, a place to voice the pain of Linda's rejection. She'd called his bisexuality unnatural, refused to meet his partners, and once threw out a pride flag he'd hung in his room. Cutting her off had been like carving out a piece of himself. But it was survival. Nathan had helped him see that, guiding him through the guilt and grief. Now, Nathan's betrayal or mistake, if Elliot believed him, threatened to unravel it all. His phone buzzed again, this time with a voicemail from Linda. Against his better judgment, he played it. Her voice was sharp, laced with the familiar mix of anger and manipulation. Elliot, how dare you ruin this for me? Nathan told me everything. You're selfish. Always have been. Call me back. The message ended, and Elliot's grip tightened on the phone. She hadn't changed. But had Nathan really told her everything? Or was this another of her lies? He texted Nathan, "Did you tell her about our sessions?" The reply came quickly, "No. I'd never break your trust like that. She's lashing out because I ended it. I'm so sorry. Elliot." The words felt genuine. But doubt not at him. Nathan was still his therapist, bound by ethics. Yet the line between them had blurred. That confession, "I care about you more than I should," echoed in his mind, stirring a dangerous hope. Elliot returned to his tiny Williamsburg apartment, the walls covered in his artwork. He poured a glass of wine and sat on the couch, staring at a sketch of Nathan he'd drawn weeks ago. The man in the drawing looked softer, unguarded, nothing like the professional who'd sat across from him today. Elliot's feelings for Nathan had grown quietly, a slow burn he'd tried to ignore. Was it mutual? Or was he projecting his need for connection onto someone who was paid to listen? The next morning, he canceled his therapy session. He couldn't face Nathan. Not yet. Instead, he threw himself into his art, working on a commission for a local gallery. But his mother's voicemail haunted him. And by noon, he was pacing. Linda had always known how to get under his skin, and now she'd tainted the one safe space he had. He needed answers. But confronting her meant reopening old wounds. Against his instincts, he called her. "What do you want?" "Linda," he said when she picked up, his voice cold. "You ruined my life." "Elliot," she spat. "Nathan was good to me, and you made him leave. Why can't you let me be happy?" "You don't get to play the victim," he snapped. You made my life hell for years. I don't owe you anything. He hung up, his heart racing. But her words lingered, sowing doubt. Had he indirectly caused Nathan to end things? And why did it hurt so much to think of Nathan with her? Elliot spent the next week avoiding both Nathan and his mother, burying himself in his art. The gallery commissioned a mural depicting Brooklyn's diversity was due soon, and he poured his turmoil into bold colors and sweeping lines. But every stroke reminded him of Nathan's steady voice, the way he'd encouraged Elliot to embrace his identity. The betrayal stung, but so did the absence of their sessions. One evening, his best friend, Mia, dragged him to a queer open mic night in the East Village. The bar was packed, the air thick with laughter and the strum of guitars. Mia, a 30-year-old non-binary artist with a buzz cut and infectious energy, nudged him. You look like you're carrying the world. Spill. He told her everything, Linda's toxicity, Nathan's relationship with her, the confession in the cafe. Mia's eyes widened. Your therapist. That's messy. Even for you. She sipped her beer. Thoughtful. But it sounds like he cares about you. Maybe too much. What do you feel for him? Elliot hesitated. I don't know. He's helped me so much. But now I can't trust him. And yet, he trailed off, remembering Nathan's hand hovering over the table, the warmth in his eyes. Sounds like you've got it bad, Mia teased, but her tone softened. Be careful. Okay. He's still your therapist. That's a power dynamic you can't ignore. Her words stuck with him as he watched performers share poetry about love and loss. One poet, a trans woman, spoke of reclaiming her worth after familial rejection. And Elliot felt a pang. He'd fought so hard to escape Linda's shadow. But now Nathan was tangled in it. He needed clarity. The next day, he emailed Nathan, requesting a meeting, not a session, but a conversation. They agreed to meet at a neutral spot, a quiet park in Dumbo. When Elliot arrived, Nathan was already there, sitting on a bench overlooking the Manhattan skyline. He looked tired, his usual calm replaced by a subtle unease. I owe you an explanation, Nathan began. I didn't know Linda was your mother until she mentioned your name last week. I ended it immediately. I should have told you sooner, but I was afraid of losing your trust. Elliot crossed his arms. You did lose it. You're supposed to be the one person I can rely on. And now you're part of her chaos. Nathan nodded, his expression pained. I know. And I'm stepping back as your therapist. It's not ethical for me to continue. Not when I have feelings for you. The words hit Elliot like a wave, both thrilling and terrifying. You can't just say that, Elliot said, his voice shaking. You don't get to drop that and expect me to know what to do with it. I don't expect anything, Nathan replied. I just needed you to know the truth. I'll refer you to another therapist, someone you can trust. But I won't lie about how I feel. Elliot's heart pounded. He wanted to be angry, to walk away. But Nathan's honesty disarmed him. They sat in silence, the city humming around them. For the first time, Elliot saw Nathan not as his therapist, but as a man flawed, vulnerable, and impossibly human. The Dumbo Park meeting left Elliot reeling. Nathan's confession had shifted something fundamental, turning their relationship into uncharted territory. He spent the next few days sketching furiously, trying to process the mix of anger, longing, and hope. His mural for the gallery was taking shoppy, vibrant tapestry of faces, each reflecting a piece of his own journey. But Nathan's face kept creeping into his sketches. Unbidden, Mia noticed his distraction when they met for coffee. You're spiraling, she said, stirring her latte. You need to figure out what you want from Nathan. Is it just closure? Or something more? I don't know, Elliot admitted. He's not my therapist anymore, but he was part of my healing. It feels wrong to want him. It's not wrong, Mia said gently. It's complicated. You've got to be honest with yourself first. Elliot nodded, but honesty felt like stepping off a cliff. He'd spent years building walls to protect himself from Linda's judgment, and now Nathan threatened to tear them down. Yet, the idea of exploring something with him, something real, was intoxicating. Meanwhile, Linda's voicemails continued, each one more desperate. Elliot, you can't keep ignoring me, she pleaded in one. I'm your mother. I deserve a chance. He deleted them, but her voice lingered, a reminder of the guilt she'd always wielded like a weapon. A week later, Elliot attended the gallery opening for his mural. The space was crowded with artists, critics, and locals, all admiring the vivid colors and stories woven into his work. He spotted Nathan across the room, uninvited but unmistakable in his tailored blazer. Their eyes met, and Elliot's heart skipped. Nathan approached, holding a glass of wine. I hope it's okay that I'm here, Nathan said. I saw the event in the paper and wanted to support you. Elliot swallowed, torn between gratitude and unease. It's fine. Thanks for coming. He gestured to the mural. This is me, I guess. All the mess and beauty. It's incredible, Nathan said, his voice warm. You're incredible. The sincerity in his eyes made Elliot's chest ache. They stood close, the crowd fading around them, and for a moment, it felt like they were the only ones in the room. But the moment shattered when Linda appeared, her presence like a storm cloud. Elliot, she said, her voice loud enough to draw eyes. You can't keep avoiding me. And you. She turned to Nathan. You used me to get to my son. The accusation stung, and Elliot saw Nathan flinch. That's not true, Linda, Nathan said firmly. This isn't the place for this. Elliot's face burned with embarrassment and anger. Leave, Mom, he said, his voice low but steady. You don't get to ruin this. Linda's eyes welled with tears, but she left, her heels clicking on the gallery floor. The crowd murmured, and Elliot felt exposed. Raw. Nathan touched his arm lightly. Are you okay? No, Elliot said honestly. But I'm glad you're here. The gallery incident left Elliot shaken, but Nathan's presence had been a quiet anchor. They didn't speak about Linda again that night, instead talking about art, music, and the little things that made New York feel like home. For the first time, Elliot saw Nathan outside the therapy room funny, passionate, human. It was disarming, and it scared him how much he wanted to know more. Over the next few weeks, they met casually, coffee here, a walk there, careful to avoid the weight of their past roles. Nathan was no longer his therapist, but the boundaries still felt blurry. Elliot wrestled with his feelings, torn between caution and the pull of something deeper. Nathan's openness, his willingness to let Elliot set the pace, only made it harder to stay guarded. One evening, they ended up at a jazz club in Harlem, the music sultry and low. Nathan leaned close, his shoulder brushing Elliot's. I used to come here when I was figuring myself out, he said. I came out late. At 35. It wasn't easy, but places like this made me feel free. Elliot studied him, surprised. You never told me that in therapy. It wasn't my place to share, Nathan said. But I want you to know me now, not just as your therapist. The vulnerability in his voice broke something in Elliot. He reached for Nathan's hand under the table, a small but deliberate gesture. Nathan's fingers curled around his, warm and steady, and for a moment, the world felt right. But Linda's shadow loomed. She'd stopped calling, But Elliot's cousin texted him updates. Linda was spiraling, blaming Elliot for her breakup, spreading stories about him to the family. It hurt, but Elliot refused to let her pull him back into her chaos. He focused on Nathan, on the tentative connection growing between them. One night, over dinner at Elliot's apartment, Nathan asked, "What do you want?" "Elliot, not just with me, but for yourself." Elliot set down his fork, his heart racing. "I want to be free," he said. "From her. From the guilt. I want to create. To love. To live without always looking over my shoulder." He paused, meeting Nathan's eyes. "And I think I want you in that life." Nathan smiled, a mix of relief and joy. "I want that too. But we need to be careful to build this right." They agreed to take it slow, to let trust rebuild. But the next morning, Elliot woke to a text from Linda. "I'm coming to see you. We need to talk." His stomach dropped. He showed Nathan, who frowned but nodded. "You don't have to face her alone," he said. "I'll be there if you want me." Elliot took a deep breath. He was done running. Linda arrived at Elliot's apartment the next evening, her face a mask of forced calm. Nathan was there, at Elliot's request, sitting quietly on the couch. The air was thick with tension as Linda stepped inside, her eyes darting between them. "I don't understand why you're doing this," she began, her voice trembling with accusation. "You've turned everyone against me. Elliot. Even Nathan." Elliot stood firm, his voice steady. "This isn't about you, Mom. It's about me protecting myself. You've hurt me for years, and I'm done letting you." Linda's face crumpled, but Elliot saw the manipulation behind her tears. "I'm your mother," she said. "I love you. Why can't you see that?" "Love doesn't tear someone down," Elliot replied. "You never accepted me. You made me feel like I was wrong for being who I am." Nathan spoke up, his tone calm but firm. "Linda, you need to respect Elliot's boundaries. He's made his choice." Linda glared at him. "You don't get to talk. You used me, then ran to him. You're both disgusting." The words stung, but Elliot didn't flinch. "Leave, Mom," he said. "I'm not doing this anymore." She hesitated, then stormed out, slamming the door. Elliot sank onto the couch, his hands shaking. Nathan sat beside him, not touching but close enough to feel his warmth. "You were incredible," Nathan said softly. "I'm proud of you." Elliot laughed, a shaky sound. "I feel like I'm going to throw up." "That's normal," Nathan said, smiling. "You just stood up to your biggest fear." They sat in silence, the weight of the confrontation settling. Elliot felt lighter, like a chain had snapped. He looked at Nathan, his heart full. "Thank you for being here." "Always," Nathan said. And this time, he took Elliot's hand. Over the next month, their relationship deepened. They went on Real dates, movies, walks along the Hudson, late-night talks about their dreams. Nathan shared stories of his own journey, the pain of coming out later in life, the fear of being seen. Elliot opened up about his art, his hopes for a future unbound by his past. They were careful, mindful of the boundaries they'd crossed. But the connection felt real, grounded in mutual respect. But Linda wasn't done. A letter arrived, handwritten and dripping with guilt. She apologized, promised to change, begged for a second chance. Elliot read it, then set it aside. He wasn't ready to forgive. Not yet. Maybe not ever. But he was ready to move forward. Winter settled over New York, blanketing the city in snow. Elliot and Nathan's relationship grew steadier, a quiet rhythm of trust and affection. They spent Christmas together, decorating a tiny tree in Elliot's apartment, laughing over burnt cookies. It was the first holiday Elliot could remember without the weight of his mother's expectations. But the letter from Linda lingered in his mind. He didn't want to let her back in, but the idea of closure nagged at him. He discussed it with Nathan, who listened without pushing. "Whatever you decide, it's for you," Nathan said. "Not her." Elliot decided to meet Linda one last time. On his terms. They arranged to meet at a neutral Spoda diner in Midtown. When he arrived, Linda looked smaller, her bravado gone. "I'm sorry," she said, her voice breaking. "I know I hurt you. I want to understand. To do better." Elliot studied her, searching for sincerity. "I needed a mother who loved me for me," he said, "not someone who tried to change me. I don't know if you can be that person." "I want to try," she said, tears streaming. "Please, Elliot." He nodded, but his heart wasn't in it. "Maybe one day," he said, "but not now. I need to live my life." Walking away from the diner, Elliot felt a strange peace. He'd said what he needed to, and for the first time, he didn't feel guilty. He texted Nathan, "It's done. I'm okay." Nathan met him at the High Line, the elevated park dusted with snow. They walked hand in hand, the city sparkling below. "You're free," Nathan said, squeezing his hand. "Not completely," Elliot admitted, "but I'm getting there." They stopped at a viewpoint, the skyline stretching before them. Nathan turned to him, his eyes soft. "I love you, Elliot. I know it's soon, but I do." Elliot's breath caught, the words warming him against the winter chill. "I love you too," he said, and meant it. Spring arrived, and with it, a new chapter. Elliot's mural won an award, and he landed a residency at a prestigious art program in Manhattan. Nathan started a new practice, focusing on queer youth, inspired by Elliot's resilience. They moved in together, a small apartment in the West Village filled with Elliot's sketches and Nathan's books. Linda sent occasional messages, small gestures of goodwill, but Elliot kept his distance. He wasn't ready to rebuild, and that was okay. He'd learned that family wasn't just blood, it was the people who saw you, who fought for you. Nathan was that family, and so was Mia, and the community they'd built. One evening, they hosted a dinner party, the apartment buzzing with friends. Mia raised a glass, grinning, to Elliot, who painted his truth and found his heart. Elliot looked at Nathan, who smiled back, his hand resting on Elliot's knee. The journey hadn't been easy, cutting off his mother, navigating the blurred lines with Nathan, rebuilding trust. But it had led him here, to a life he'd never dared dream of. As the party wound down, Elliot stepped onto the balcony, Nathan joining him. The city hummed below, alive and endless. "I used to think I'd never be enough," Elliot said, his voice soft. "But with you, I feel like I am." Nathan pulled him close, their foreheads touching. "You always were," he said, "and you always will be." They stood there, wrapped in each other and the promise of a future they'd built together. The scars of the past remained, but they were part of the tapestry, proof of survival, of love, of a life reclaimed.